So if we're going on the interval from 0 to pi, and we're using left-hand endpoints, that means there is a left-hand endpoint here. But when you plug that x-coordinate into the function, the sign of 0 is 0. So this first rectangle doesn't have an area. So we want to find the area of the remaining 3 rectangles and add them together to get the Riemann sum for 4 subintervals. So there are 4 subintervals because there's 3 visible rectangles plus this one here that you can't see because the area is 0. So to find out the width of each rectangle, we take the right-hand endpoint, which is pi, subtract the left-hand endpoint, which is 0, and divide by the number of subintervals, 4. So the width of each of these subintervals is pi over 4. And the x-coordinates that we're going to use to calculate the height of each rectangle, we start at 0, the left-hand endpoint, and add on 1 pi over 4 to get to the second x-coordinate that we're going to use. That's this pi over 4 for x of 2. To get the third left-hand endpoint, we start at 0 and add on 2 of these widths. And that results in pi over 2, which that looks like that's what that is. And finally, 3 pi over 4 is going to be the x-coordinate we use to calculate the height of the fourth rectangle. So the area of the first rectangle we already know is 0, depicted by this red line right here, because the sign of 0 is 0. The area of the second rectangle is, the height is put pi over 4 into the function, multiply by the width, and you've got the area of the rectangle, which is represented by this. Now you could picture 4 times pi over 4 is just pi. So you can visualize this as the pi times the sine of pi over 4. And that's the case with these other 2 rectangles also. 4 times pi over 4 is just pi. And so we have to evaluate the sine of pi over 2, the sine of 3 pi over 4. So we're adding these areas together from I equals 1 to 4. The area of the first rectangle is 0. The area of the second rectangle is pi. Well, look, I got pi in every one of these terms, so I just factored out the pi and put it out front. And then I'm going to evaluate the sine of 0, the sine of pi over 4, the sine of pi over 2, the sine of 3 pi over 2. That's these heights right here. So the sine of 0 is 0. The sine of pi over 4 is the square root of 2 over 2. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. And finally, radical 2 over 2 again for sine of 3 pi over 4. So the final answer in exact form is pi times square root of 2 over 2 plus itself is just the square root of 2, and we got this 1. So it's 1 plus the square root of 2, that quantity, multiplied by pi. Okay, and of course you could get an approximate value for that, but this is your exact answer. Okay, there you go. Hope that helped. If you have any questions, post a comment. I will also post a link to the Desmos graph that gave me this picture. There you go.